My name is Ana Carolina, I'm 29 years old, and I live here in Brazil, in an interior of Minas Gerais. I'm not a pastor, I don't hold any position in the church, I'm not a leader of anything, I'm just a woman who works, pays her bills, and tries to live close to God as best I can. But something changed in the last few months, and it wasn't a small change. It was a change that kept me up at night, that made me cry alone in my room, that left me with a weight on my chest that hasn't gone away yet. I received a revelation. I don't know what else to call it. And this revelation wasn't about dates or pretty prophecies. It was about practical things, real things, things that most people will regret not seeking while there was still time. I tried to ignore it, I really did, because who am I to talk about these things? But God wouldn't leave me alone. Every time I prayed, it came back. Every time I opened the Bible, I received confirmation. Until one night, crying, I said, "Okay, Lord. I'll speak, but you'll have to give me courage," and here I am. My voice still trembles, but I obey because what God has shown me isn't to scare me, it's to prepare me. And if you've come this far, perhaps it's because He wants to prepare you too. So take a deep breath with me and come hear what needs to be said. Because after 2026 begins, it will be too late to chase it. And I don't want you to regret it. It all started when I felt a strange unease. You know? When you can't explain it, but something inside you screams that something is wrong. That was it, just stronger, more urgent. I started having recurring dreams, dreams where I saw empty shelves, pharmacies without medicine, gas stations without fuel, people running desperately for their basics. At first, I thought it was just anxiety, something in my head, but the dreams didn't stop and they got worse. More detailed, more real, until one night I woke up and couldn't fall back asleep. I went to the living room, lit a candle, opened the Bible, and began to pray quietly. And it was there that I heard Him, not with my ears, but with my spirit. A clear, firm voice, unhurried. "Tell my people, they will have to prepare." I froze. I was paralyzed because it wasn't in my head. "Prepare how, Lord?" I asked, trembling, and the answer came directly. "Tell them what they will regret not seeking." At that moment, a list began to appear in my mind. It wasn't just any list. It was a list of things God was showing me that would disappear, become more expensive, or be impossible to obtain. And the worst part was, most of these things were within my reach right now, but no one was paying attention to them. I spent the rest of the night writing everything down. My hand was shaking, but I wrote because I knew that if I didn't, I would forget. Worse still, I thought it was just my imagination. But no. I know it wasn't. From that day on, I began to observe things differently. Paying attention to what people do, what they buy, what they ignore. And I realized something terrifying. No one prepares for anything. Everyone lives as if tomorrow will be the same as today, as if nothing could change. But it will change, and it will change rapidly. God showed me that 2026 will be a defining moment, not because the world will end, but because the world as we know it will collapse. And when that happens, people will realize that they had a chance, that they had time, that they had resources, but they chose to waste them on frivolities. They chose to believe that God will provide without doing their part. And look, God does provide, but He expects us to use the intelligence He gave us. He warned Noah before the flood. Joseph was told to store food before the famine. He warned Lot before the fire. God warns, He always warns, but not everyone listens. And this time the warning is given now to you, to me, too. Those who have ears to hear, because the regret of not having prepared will be a pain that many will bear. After that night I began to receive confirmations in ways I never expected. A sister from church came to talk to me and said, "Anna, I had a strange dream. I dreamt that you were warning people about something serious. I still hadn't told anyone, not a single person. Another person who barely knows me stopped me on the street and said, I don't know why, but I feel that God wants to use you to say something important." That gave me goosebumps because I knew it wasn't a coincidence. God was confirming it. Was urging me on, was telling me, go, speak. And here I am. Gathering the courage to obey, because I know many people will laugh, many will doubt, many will say I'm crazy. Or that I'm exaggerating, but I'd rather be called crazy now than see people suffer later for lack of warning. I'd rather be criticized today than have him come looking for me tomorrow saying, "Why didn't you insist?" So I'm going to speak, I'm going to say everything God commanded, I'm going to list what He showed. I'll give you time to react, to search. Prepare yourself, and then the decision is yours. You can ignore it, you can mock it, you can keep it to yourself. But I guarantee you one thing, when 2026 arrives, you will remember this message, and then it will be up to you. You will remember it with relief because you prepared, or with regret because you ignored it. I am not a prophet. I don't receive revelations daily. I don't live on mysticism. I'm an ordinary woman who works Monday through Friday, struggles to pay the bills, and has good days and bad days. But this morning, God decided to speak to me. So in the next few chapters, I'll share with you exactly what He showed me. I'll talk about the things that will disappear, the things that will become absurdly expensive, the things that are simple today but will soon be scarce. And this isn't meant to make you panic, to make you rush out and buy everything in desperation, but rather to make you act wisely, prudently, with faith, but also with responsibility. Because faith without action is dead. And God doesn't bless spiritual laziness. He wants us to trust in Him, but He also wants us to use what He has placed in our hands. Joseph stored things because God commanded him to. Noah built because God commanded him to. And what are we going to do? Will we sit idly by waiting for a miracle? Or will we obey and act while there is still time? I have already chosen. I am acting, I am preparing. And I warn you because when everything runs out, when despair knocks at the door, you will understand. You will understand that this warning was a gift, a mercy, a last chance, and I pray that you don't let it pass you by. The first thing God showed me was about medicine, basic medicine, you know? The kind that everyone has at home or thinks they can always find at the pharmacy. In the vision, I saw desperate people at the doors of pharmacies, huge lines, people crying because the antibiotics had run out, mothers with sick children in their arms, unable to find anything for the fever. It wasn't a lack of money, it was a lack of the product itself. The shelves were empty, and the worst part wasn't just expensive medications, it was dipyrone, paracetamol, amoxicillin, simple things that today can be bought on any street corner. Current offering absurd amounts for a box of painkillers, and even then there weren't any, because when a crisis truly hits, money loses its value. What matters is having the product on hand, and those who didn't save, those who didn't prepare, will experience firsthand what it's like to need something and not have it. God also showed me that many medications will be diverted, disappear from official reserves, and appear on the black market at prices no one can afford. I saw people trading food for medicine, trading gold for antibiotics, trading everything they had for the chance to save a child, a father, a mother. And do you know what hurt them the most? Seeing that many people could have saved beforehand, could have built up a basic supply, but they thought it was foolish, they thought it was an exaggeration. Oh, God will provide. Yes, He will. But He also gave them the wisdom to act while there is still time. Jose saved during times of plenty to have enough for times of scarcity, and we are going to act differently. So I tell you now, if you can, start putting together a first aid kit of basic medications. It has to be a pharmacy, but it must have the essentials. Pain relievers, fever reducers, basic antibiotics, blood pressure medication, diabetes medication, heart medication. Whatever you and your family use, save it. Save it while you still have it, because when it's gone, regret is useless. The second thing God showed me was even more terrifying. Drinking water. Yes, water, the kind we think will never run out. In the vision, I saw dry taps, empty wells, polluted rivers, and people walking miles in search of a liter of clean water. I'm not just referring to the drought in the Northeast. I'm talking about water scarcity in places that have always had it. Big cities, capital cities, places where no one imagined it. I saw people drinking dirty water because they had no other choice. And then I saw the consequences: disease, death, despair. Water will become more valuable than gold, and whoever has it must protect it because they will try to steal it. Does that sound exaggerated to you? So, explain to me why. God put this in my mind so clearly. Why did I wake up sweating with this image burned into my mind? It's not to scare you, it's to wake you up, because you still have time to prepare. Buy gallon jugs, buy good filters, learn how to purify water, save while you can, because when the tap runs dry it will be too late. I've already started here at home. I have gallon jugs stored, I have purification tablets, I have a clay water filter, and I'm going to keep preparing. Because I don't want to get to 2026 and see my family thirsty without being able to do anything. You can laugh at me now, but when the time comes, you'll remember we warned you, and then it will be up to you. Will you have water stored or will you desperately search for it? God provides, yes, but He expects us to use the brains He gave us. So use it while there's still time, while you can still buy it, while it's still available in stores, because later there won't be any for anyone. The third thing was food. Real food: rice, beans, oil, salt, sugar. The basics of Brazilian cuisine. God showed me supermarkets with empty shelves. It wasn't a sale day, it was a genuine shortage. I saw people fighting over a package of rice, pushing, shouting, hitting each other, all for food. And not just in poor areas, it was everywhere. Because when there's a shortage for everyone. I saw gigantic lines, people camping outside supermarkets waiting for the trucks to arrive. And when they arrived, everything was gone in minutes. The prices I saw were absurd. A package of rice costs what an entire supermarket costs today. And yet people bought it because they had no other choice. Hunger doesn't wait, hunger doesn't negotiate, hunger hurts. And whoever has never felt real hunger doesn't know the desperation it causes. God showed me families eating only once a day. Children crying for food, parents not knowing what to do. And the worst part was, many of these parents had money, they had bank accounts. But they didn't have to buy anything because money doesn't fill your stomach when there's nothing to sell. Joseph understood this. That's why he saved, that's why he prepared, and that's why he saved not only his family, but an entire nation. And you? What are you going to do? Are you going to wait for a shortage to rush out and find something? So, listen, start saving a little bit each month. Start stockpiling supplies. Rice, beans, pasta, oil, salt, sugar, canned goods, things that last, things that will sustain you. It doesn't have to be excessive, but it has to be realistic, because when the shortage comes, those who have will eat, those who don't will go hungry. The fourth thing God showed me was fuel, and it scared me because I hadn't even thought about it before. But in the vision, I saw closed gas stations, kilometer-long lines of stopped cars, and people walking because there simply wasn't any gasoline. It wasn't a strike, it wasn't a protest, it was a real shortage. It was gone, there was nothing left. I saw ambulances stopped, delivery trucks abandoned, buses parked, everything without fuel. And then you ask me, but Anna, what am I going to do? I can't store gasoline at home. I know, but you can think of alternatives now. You can plan. You live far from work? Think about moving. You depend on a car for everything? Start creating other options, because when there's no fuel, the world literally stops. Nothing arrives, nothing leaves, everything freezes. And whoever hasn't thought about this before will despair later. God didn't show me this so you would panic, but so you would think. Plan, adapt, because wisdom isn't waiting for the crisis to arrive, it's preparing before it knocks on the door. So think about it. How are you going to survive without fuel? Do you have a plan B? Do you have an alternative? If not, start creating one now, because 2026 is approaching, and you won't be wondering if you're ready. It will simply arrive, and then you either endure or fall, and I don't want you to fall. The fifth thing was the most painful to see: security. Not in the sense of policing, but in the sense of real protection. God showed me that many houses will be invaded, not by common criminals, but by desperate people, driven by hunger and need. I saw neighbors robbing neighbors, acquaintances breaking into homes. Because when hunger strikes, ethics disappear, and it's useless to have many things stored away if you don't know how to protect them. People are losing everything they had accumulated because they weren't prepared to defend themselves. And I'm not talking about violence. I'm talking about prevention, wisdom, keeping things safe, reinforcing them, not showing off, not telling everyone what you've stored. Because silence will be protection, and discretion will be survival. God showed me that those who prepare with wisdom will succeed, but those who prepare with pride will lose everything. Because it's useless to have things if everyone knows about them. It's useless to keep them if you're always telling everyone about them. True preparation is silent, humble, and discreet, and that's what I do. I keep things, yes, but without fanfare, without publicizing it, without telling half the world, because protection begins in silence and ends in obedience. So keep this in your heart. Prepare, but don't boast. Gather, but don't tell. Protect, but don't brag. Because whoever shouts that they have it will be a target, and whoever keeps it secret will be protected. The sixth thing that came in the revelation kept me awake for days. The electricity, long blackouts, not just a few hours. Days, sometimes weeks. God showed me entire cities in darkness. Refrigerators spoiling food, cell phones without batteries, communication cut off, everything stopped. And it wasn't just the lack of light, it was the chaos that accompanied it, because without electricity nothing works. Banks don't open, gas stations don't operate, markets don't sell, hospitals collapse. I saw people trying to cook with makeshift fires, burning furniture, burning everything they could find, because the stove wouldn't work without gas or electricity. I saw entire families freezing at night and others suffering unbearable heat during the day, without fans, without air conditioning, without anything. The dependence we have on energy is something we will only understand when it actually fails, and it will. God warned me about this and I began to prepare. I bought rechargeable flashlights, a portable battery, candles, matches. I learned to cook without electricity. I have a camping stove. I have coal stored because I know it will be necessary, and it might seem crazy to you now, but when the power goes out for days, you'll understand. I've seen people offering fortunes for a flashlight, for a charged battery, for anything that brings a little light into the darkness, because physical darkness brings fear, it brings insecurity, and it exposes those who weren't prepared. So I'm telling you, don't depend solely on the electrical grid. Have a plan, have alternatives, because when everything goes out, those who have light will have hope, and those who don't will be in literal and emotional darkness. Don't let that happen to you. Prepare now, while there's still time, while the stores still have it, because later there won't be any for anyone. The seventh thing was so specific that it impressed me. Hygiene products, soap, hand soap, toothpaste, toilet paper, sanitary napkins, diapers. In my vision, I saw mothers crying because they didn't have diapers for their babies, women using cloth diapers because they didn't have sanitary napkins. A family without laundry soap might seem trivial, but when you don't have it, you realize how much you miss it. You end up using sheets to clean yourself, washing clothes with just water, improvising everything because you had nothing else to buy. And the worst part was the prices. A pack of diapers cost what I used to pay in a month's rent. And even then, it was gone in minutes because need doesn't wait, and basic dignity becomes a luxury when there's scarcity. God showed me this so I could warn you. Save. Save toilet paper, save soap, save toothpaste, save everything that's essential for hygiene. You don't need to go overboard, but you need to have it, because this will make the difference between maintaining your dignity and losing it due to a lack of options. I've already started saving. When I see a sale, I buy more. I'm gradually increasing my stock. And it's not out of fear, it's out of prudence, it's out of wisdom, it's out of obedience to what God has shown me. Because He didn't give me this revelation so I could sit idly by. He gave it to me. He gave me the opportunity to act and to warn you. So act, by little, keep accumulating, because when you run out, you'll be grateful you listened. And if you have young children, elderly people at home, or someone who depends on specific products, stock up twice as much, because someone else's need can become your own desperation if you're not prepared. Don't let that happen. Act now. The eighth thing God showed me was something I had never thought about. Seeds. Yes, seeds to plant, to produce your own food. In the vision, I saw people trying to plant anything in pots, on patios, on any kind of land. But there were no seeds because everyone had the same idea at the same time. And when that happens, it runs out quickly. Currently paying absurd amounts for a handful of tomato seeds, lettuce seeds, anything edible, because when you can't buy them, you need to produce them, and to produce, you need seeds. It's no use having land, having the will, having the time if you don't have the seeds to start. God warned me about this, and I, who had never planted anything in my life, began to learn. I bought seeds, learned how to store them properly so they wouldn't spoil. I started planting some things at home to practice, to learn how it works, because when the time comes, there won't be a YouTube tutorial, there won't be time to learn. You either know it or you starve. I saw entire families eating only what they had grown and thanking God for having started earlier because they were prepared. And I saw others dying of hunger surrounded by fertile land because they had no seeds, no knowledge, nothing. So I implore you, don't wait for a crisis to think about this. Start now. Buy seeds, learn to plant, even if it's just in a pot. Even if it's something small, but learn, practice, save seeds, because self-sufficiency can be the difference between life and death in 2026. And God is warning you now, while there is still time, while there are still seeds to buy and soil to use. The ninth thing was so heavy that I cried for days. Controlled medications. Psychiatric medications, for anxiety, for depression, for sleep, for anything that requires a special prescription. God showed me people in withdrawal because they could no longer get their medications. There were no prescriptions, no stock, nothing. I saw people going crazy. Literally because their bodies were addicted to the medication and suddenly everything stopped working. And it wasn't their fault, it was simply a lack of it. The medications disappeared, the pharmacies ran out, the doctors could no longer prescribe them. I saw suicides, I saw nervous breakdowns, I saw desperate families trying to cling to someone who was out of control due to lack of medication. And that broke my heart because so many people depend on it to live, and when it runs out, the suffering is real, it's physical, it's brutal. God showed me this so that I could warn, especially those who take these kinds of medications. Talk to your doctor now. Try to get a supply. Explain the situation to them. Some doctors will understand. Some will help you maintain a minimum stock, but it has to be now, not in 2026. Because when we get there, there won't be enough doctors to treat patients, there won't be a functioning system, there won't be anything, and those who depend on it will suffer in a way that no one deserves. So if you take controlled medications or know someone who does, take action, talk to your doctor, look for alternatives, save what you can, because the lack of these medications will create a wave of psychological suffering that will be devastating. And I don't want you or a loved one to go through that. So prepare yourself while you can, because later it will be too late, and the regret of not seeking help will be an irreparable pain. The 10th thing God showed me completed the cycle of revelation. Practical knowledge, skills, knowing how to do things with their own hands. In the vision, I saw that those who knew how to repair, plant, cook, sew, heal wounds, purify water, and make fire, these people became valuable because in a real crisis, a diploma is worthless, a degree doesn't fill your stomach, and a resume doesn't save lives. What saves lives is knowing how to do something, having practical skills, being able to manage when there's no one else to do it for you. People exchange services for food. I'll fix your fence if you give me a plate of food. I'll heal your wound if you give me water, because money lost its value, but skills gained it. And those who didn't know how to do anything became hostages, dependent, vulnerable. God showed me this so I could learn and so I could warn you. Learn something, anything, but learn. Learn basic first aid. Learn to sew. Learn to make a fire. Learn to purify water. Learn to plant. Learn to cook from scratch, because when everything falls apart, what will keep you standing is what you know how to do, not what you have in your bank account. Not your job, not your degree, it's what your hands know how to do, it's what your mind has learned, it's what you can offer in exchange for survival. I started learning, I take online courses. Watch videos, practice, make mistakes, try again because I don't want to be useless when the crisis hits. I don't want to depend solely on others. I want to have something to offer, something to exchange, something to help with. And will you stand still waiting for someone to do it for you, or will you learn while there's still time? This is the 10th and final thing God showed me. And perhaps it's the most important of all. After receiving this revelation, I spent days processing it, days praying, days asking God for confirmation. Because I knew what He showed me would affect many people. And I also knew that there would be those who would doubt, those who would criticize, those who would call it exaggeration or desperation. But do you know what bothered me the most? It wasn't the criticism, it was the idea that someone could hear and do nothing, because I didn't receive this to keep to myself, I received it to share, to warn, to give people a chance to prepare. And if you've read this far and you're still thinking, just let it go, nothing will happen, then I ask you, what if it does happen? What if everything I saw comes true? What if 2026 really is the year God showed me it would be? Will you be prepared, or will you be in the middle of the desperate crowd running after what they no longer have? Because repentance won't change anything. I should have listened. It won't fill your stomach, it won't soothe your child, it won't protect your family. What will protect you is what you do now. The decisions you make today, the actions you take while there is still time. God gave me this revelation as a gift, as a last chance to prepare, and I pass it on to you in the same spirit. It's not to create panic, it's to create awareness, to awaken you, to get you out of your comfort zone and into action. because true faith isn't about sitting still waiting for God to do everything. It's about obeying when He tells you to move. Noah had faith, but he also built the ark, and Joseph had faith, but he also stored food. David had faith, but he also gathered stones. Faith and action go hand in hand. And if you have faith, then act, prepare, seek, protect, learn, because God did His part. He warned you. Now the remaining part is yours. Many people I was wondering, Anna, how do I start? Where do I begin? I don't have the money to buy everything at once. And I understand. Me neither. I still don't have it. But you know what I did? I started little by little with what I could. 1 month I'd buy extra medicine, the next a few packages of candles, then a few kilos of rice and beans, little by little, without rushing, but consistently, because what matters isn't the quantity, it's the attitude. It's about moving from passivity to obedience. You don't need to become a professional prepper. You don't need to build a bunker. You don't need to spend everything you have, but you need to start. You need to take the first step. You need to get off the couch and act. Make a list of the things I mentioned, the things you use, the things your family needs, and start buying little by little within your budget, without desperation, but with purpose. Because when you add it all up at the end of a few months, you'll see that you've managed to save much more than you imagined. And when 2026 arrives, you won't be empty-handed, you won't be standing in line, you won't be desperate, you'll be prepared, calm, protected, because you listened and obeyed. And that's the difference between those who prepare and those who just wait. One faces the crisis with dignity, the other faces it with despair. Which do you want to be? The decision is yours, but time to choose is running out. So choose now and act according to your choice, because God will not do for you what He has given you the ability to do on your own. Something God also made clear in Revelation is that it's not just for you, it's for your family, for your loved ones, and if possible, to help those in need, because selfish preparation will not be blessed. Saving only for yourself, thinking only of yourself, is not wisdom, it's greed. God showed me that those who prepare with a generous heart will receive supernatural protection. But those who prepare with a closed heart will lose everything in unexpected ways, because God honors those who honor others, and those who only think of themselves end up alone when they need Him most. So when you save thinking, this can save my family and help someone who couldn't prepare. You don't need to go around telling everyone. You don't need to announce it. But at the right time, if God shows it to you, you can extend your hand, and that will make all the difference, because the crisis will reveal people's character, and those with a servant's heart will shine in the darkness. I'm preparing myself this way, saving for myself, but I'm also saving so I can help, because I know there will be people in need. And if God warned me beforehand, it's because He expects me to be a channel of blessing for those who weren't warned or who were warned but lacked the means. So prepare yourselves with generosity, with love, with compassion, because true preparation isn't just material, it's also spiritual. And whoever prepares their heart along with their provisions will have peace in the midst of chaos, joy in the midst of scarcity, faith in the midst of despair, because they will know they are not alone, that God is in control, and that everything they did was obedience, not fear. And it is this difference that will sustain you when everything around you collapses. So don't prepare with fear, prepare with faith, with wisdom, with love, and let God take care of the rest. There is something I need to make very clear. Physical preparation without spiritual preparation will be useless. You can have a house full of food, medicine, water, but if your heart is empty of God, you will have no peace, no protection, no deliverance, because true security doesn't come from what you hoard. It comes from whom you serve, whom you obey, in whom you trust. God showed me materially prepared houses being destroyed and simple houses with almost nothing being protected supernaturally. Do you know why? Because what makes the difference is not the reserves, it is the presence of God, it is obedience, it is true faith. So before you go out to buy everything, kneel, pray, ask for guidance, ask for wisdom, ask for protection, because without God you are vulnerable. No matter how much you've stored, no matter how much you've prepared, if God isn't with you, you won't endure, you'll despair, you'll lose your peace, you'll fall. But if God is with you, even with little, you'll have everything you need, because He multiplies, He protects, He sustains. So, the first preparation you need to make is spiritual, it's repenting of what you need, fixing what's wrong, seeking His presence. After that, then you can act according to natural means, you save, you prepare, you organize, but always with God in front, always with faith, always knowing that it's He who will deliver you, not your provisions. Because provisions are tools, but God is the protector. And without Him, no tool will work properly. So, always put God first in everything and let Him guide you in what to save, what to buy, what to do. 1. Last thing before we end this chapter. Some people will criticize you, some people will laugh at you. Some people will call you crazy, exaggerated, paranoid. Because the opinions of others won't feed you when food is scarce, won't heal you when medicine is scarce, won't protect you when chaos strikes.